What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of a Stogie for the Road podcast. I am your host, Stogie, aka Sean. Folks, we missed last week, and I am so sorry. It's been crazy. I went on vacation, doing some changes at work, and it's just been bananas. But I'm happy to be back. I'm doing my thing the way I love to do my thing. It's a whole new world with this podcast now. We're doing it in a different way to where we're just no holds barred and just flat out sick and tired of trying to do things the way algorithms tell you to do it or people on podcasts are now doing it. I'm so much happier just doing it my fucking way. I have an idea. I map out my idea and I deliver it exactly the way I want to. And I noticed when I was doing my podcast before in the past, I mean, we're coming up on almost 60 episodes now. And it feels really good because I look back in retrospect at some of my old podcasts and I can actually see the times where I'm like trying to figure out ways of making it more adaptive to the ups and downs of the way the internet is going now. And it came through. And if it didn't come through to you guys, it came through to me to where I just felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. And now that I've been just saying, this is what I'm talking about today, and fuck it all. We're doing this shit. Let's run it up the flagpole, see who salutes it, but not give a shit if nobody does. You know, not care if anybody listens. Just building it exactly the way you want to. And I highly, highly encourage anybody, if you're out there, you're building a dream, don't waste the years like I've wasted trying to figure out ways to make it, you know, like going along with the Joneses. It's such an unfulfilling, miserable existence, and I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. So anyway, today we're going to get into something I'm pretty passionate about, something that has come up off and on throughout my life from time to time. And we talk a lot about men's mental health. We talk about a lot about the way things are going in society. And we talk a lot about relationships and shit like that. And this is going to be, I guess, kind of a relationship-based podcast. And what I mean, kind of, this is a relationship-based podcast because a lot of people are dating now. And a lot of people, and I mean more than, you know, the alternative, a lot of people are not dating. People have just taken themselves out of the dating game because it's become a fucking circus. You know, people used to be able to date and be married and have a relationship. And unless your neighbors are gabbing about what they saw the other day at the barbecue or something like that, people really don't know what's going on under your roof. It's like people's personal business is just out for public consumption. I'm one of the biggest violators at large as far as talking about my personal life, but I pick and choose what I talk about. You know, I don't air out relationship drama. I don't air out family drama. You know, my personal life to that degree is my personal life. But I see people to where when they post, I'm like, you know, we don't have to fucking post everything. You know, you don't have to wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, I got a screaming headache. Do you ask yourself, people that do that, do you ask yourself when you post that unsolicited TMI shit that you do you ask yourself before you hit post, do you think anybody out there that is going through their own shit is just hanging on to the clock, watching the seconds go by, waiting for you to post some sort of arbitrary shit that's going on in your life? Neil Brennan is a comedian recently, and he was talking about, you know, people when they post my journey and I'm healing and all that bullshit, that airy-fairy silly bullshit that people talk about, like they truly feel that there's people out there that care. And it kind of cracked me up because, you know, people are like, you know, all you haters out there, I'm building my business and I'm building my dream. And if you don't like it, and I fucking do it, but I actually have legitimate haters and I have legitimate people that try to undermine what I do. But there's people out there that got, you know, 14 friends and they're like, you know, fuck all you haters. And he said, how did he say it? He goes, do you think that your haters out there just laying in bed going, oh, I'm tired, and they're getting ready to go to sleep, and then they go, oh, God, I hope Jennifer doesn't get that small business loan, that fucking bitch. You know, they don't do that. They don't care. They care about their bills. They care about their life. They care about their kids. They care about their relationship, and they care about their family and the world that they live in. And the only time they opine about your shit and your life and your fucking problems is when their life is in the frickin' piece-a-doo and they are venting their frustration under the guise of saying, I don't like you, I don't like what you're doing, and on we go. And that's a whole podcast in itself on why people do that shit. It's a little fun thing called projection. Yeah, we all know about the frickin' projection. I'm miserable with me, which means I'm going to vomit that up all over you. There's so many people, when they have problems, they have this like committee of people they go to. My girlfriend, my boys, my this, my that. And I did this. Before I even go any further, you guys need to understand, I'm talking from experience here. I'm talking, where I've come from to where I experienced this firsthand. I was that guy that would complain about my relationship to my boys and then go back to that relationship. And after about, the 133rd fucking time, you realize the next time you have a bad riff with your significant other, at least with guys, they're not there that 155th time you're bitching about your girl. Because guys are absolutely unapologetic in saying, I got my own fucking problems. If you want to keep slamming your hand in the goddamn car door, be my guest. I just don't want to fucking hear about it because I got my own shit to deal with. Because that's where I'm at. That's what, when people lay their problems at my feet, that's exactly what I think is like, Jesus Christ. And I'm counting the minutes and the time until I absolutely can get out of that conversation and wait for them to stop fucking bemoaning their self-inflicted bullshit onto me. But people still do it. How many times you see that girl out there that's got that relationship problem or that ongoing relationship problem that never seems to fucking end? And every few days it's my ride or die this. I could have loved you, but you chose this. And if you want this, then if I'm too much for you, go find less and all that stuff like that. And that's actually a good quote. But there's like these common things that people, they just hang on to. And they regurgitate it out into the fucking ether, hoping that people will validate how they feel. They live and breathe for that echo chamber. I don't know. It's frustrating because what nobody warns you about when you get into a relationship, honestly, and this is so important, is the fucking spectators. Everybody warns you about cheating, money, sex, lying, communication. Nobody tells you that sometimes you're not dating that one person. When you meet that person, they're like, I want you to go meet my friends. And then you meet this cavalry of friends. Congratulations. You're now dating all of them. Nobody tells you that sometimes you're not just dating that one person. Let that freaking sink in. You're dating their entire advisory board, their best friend, their sister, their mother, their coworkers, their therapist, their Facebook group, their ride or die girlfriend that's been with her since the beginning, and some half-drunk stranger on TikTok who learned the word narcissist 3 weeks ago and now thinks they're qualified to diagnose the entire human race are all now coming after your ass. So every time you and your partner have a disagreement, their fucking board of directors call an emergency meeting. Your name goes on the agenda. Somebody makes a fucking motion and somebody seconds it, and whammo. Before you even know there was a trial, you've already been found guilty by 12 people who have never once asked for your side of the story. Think about how fucking stupid and how insane that is. You're defending yourself in a case that's against you, built in a courtroom you were never invited to. And the evidence? Usually one angry phone call made at the worst possible time where you lose your shit via text message or whatever, and boom, welcome to the world of the scarlet letter. Because nobody calls their best friend when a relationship is going well. You need to know that. That's absolutely a fact. Nobody says, hey, I just wanted you to know my partner was patient today. They listened to me today. They showed up for the kids. They helped me when I needed it, and they made me laugh, and they kept their word. Nobody calls with that shit. They call when they're furious and they're pissed off at you. They call when they're hurt, when they're in trauma. They call while adrenaline is still pumping and every emotion feels like the absolute God's honest truth. That doesn't necessarily mean they're lying. You could have definitely fucked up. But an emotional truth and a complete truth are not always the same gosh damn thing. And you all know that. If you are over the age of 8, you know that. They'll tell their friend what you said, but maybe not what was said to you first. They'll explain how you raised your voice and how you're abusive. But skip the hour where they interrupted, insulted, accused, dismissed, and pushed every button that they knew you fucking had. They'll explain that you walked away. But not that you walked away because staying would have turned a bad argument into a nuclear event or an episode of Gosh Damn Cops. They'll say you set a boundary. Their friend hears control. They'll say you asked for reassurance. Their friend hears insecurity. They'll say you questioned something that didn't make sense. And their friend hears an interrogation happened. And suddenly somebody who wasn't there knows exactly what your intentions were. It's amazing. This profound, talented clairvoyant can diagnose you without even probably ever talking to you. You were trying to isolate her. I don't like it. I just want my friend. Fuck. Okay. You wanted control. You only apologized because you were manipulating her. Really? You weren't in the room there, tons of fun. You didn't hear the tone, did you? You don't know the history. You don't know what happened before it, did you? You don't know what happened afterwards. But somehow, you've looked through space and time and diagnosed another human what their intentions are and what their soul is. You see, that's not wisdom. That's arrogance wearing therapy glasses. Now, here's what makes toxic spectators so fucking dangerous. They get all the entertainment and jack shit when it comes to consequence. They get to gossip. They get the drama and the enjoyment they get out of watching other people's life turn to shit so they can take a break from seeing their own life in absolute fucking chaos. They get to analyze your life like they're watching a Netflix series, and they get to give instructions. Girl, you need to leave him. Bro, you need to block her. Expose them. That's a good one. Everybody knows I've got like a public thing, and that's everybody wants to do. Expose him. Fuck you. Burn it all down. And then they go home. They don't have to repair anything. They don't have to explain it to the kids. They don't have to divide the property. They don't have to stare at an empty side of the bed. They don't sit awake at 2 a.m. wondering whether they just destroyed something they could have saved. They just throw a fucking grenade. You pick up the shrapnel, dig it out of the walls, and rebuild your life again. Now, let me be clear. Friends can save people's lives. That's absolutely true. If a woman's in an abusive a relationship where a man's beating the hell out of her, then by all means, intervene with all the gusto you have. But sometimes somebody outside of the relationship sees abuse, danger, deception, control that the person inside the relationship can't see. So yeah, it serves a purpose. Sometimes love makes people blind and makes them write excuses for people that are absolutely toxic, dangerous, and destructive. Sometimes fear makes people stay in a horrible relationship. They just need help. If I take them and they get therapy, maybe we all can see what patience and love for the mentally ill can look like. That is almost biblically righteous. But sometimes an honest outside voice is exactly what somebody needs. So I'm not shitting all over people's friends. But there's a massive difference between offering perspective and installing yourself as the director of another adult's lives. A healthy friend, now listen up, a healthy friend says, this is what I see, and think about it. You're a smart man. I trust that you know what to do. Think about it. You're a smart woman. You're a powerful woman. I trust you know what to do. A manipulative friend, this is what they say. This is what's happening, and if you disagree with me, you've been brainwashed. A healthy friend asks questions. A manipulator hands you conclusions. A healthy friend respects your decision even when they would choose differently. And a manipulator pushes you until you choose what they want. That's not support. That's ownership. And some people do not want a seat at your table. They just don't. They want to be the head of it. They want veto power over your relationship. They want to be the top of the heap. They want to decide who is good for you, what every disagreement means, and which version of reality you're allowed to believe. And they package that control into soft language like, I'm just worried about you. You've changed. You're not acting like yourself. He's controlling. Maybe you're not acting like the version of yourself they could use anymore. Maybe you want to think about that. Maybe they're used to having their hand in your fucking pocket and riding your coattails for, I don't know, a job or business for their business. Maybe you stopped writing them checks. Maybe you stopped cleaning up every fucking emergency they'd throw at your feet when you don't ask for it and you don't need it. Maybe you stopped making their chaos your fucking responsibility. Maybe you started asking questions. Maybe you built a relationship, a purpose, or a future that no longer revolved around rescuing them. Because my God, my lifeguard now has other shit to do, which means I have to pull myself up on my fucking bootstraps and handle my shit. No, they're not worried about you in your relationship. They're worried about losing access to you. That's not the same thing. So today we're talking about the people who put their hands on the steering wheel of your life and convince you that they're helping while they drive you straight into the fucking ditch. Concern versus manipulation, boundaries versus control, loyalty versus self-betrayal, internet psychology, weaponized victimhood. The people who profit from your weakness, they're everywhere. I've seen it so many times in my life. And the reason so many of us ignore what our gut has been screaming for years is because eventually every adult has to answer one question. Am I making my own decisions? Because like I said, these people are everywhere. It's a legitimate question. Are you making your own fucking decisions? And sometimes it's not people that you're making your decisions on. Sometimes you're making your decisions upon a really well-produced Instagram reel that somehow writes excuses for your fucking behavior. Am I making my own decisions? Or am I living a life designed by the loudest broken person in the room? So let's talk about concern versus manipulation. Manipulation almost never introduces itself honestly because it's manipulation. Nobody walks through the door and says, hello, I'm here to weaken your confidence, undermine your relationship, and slowly make you dependent on my approval. At least that would save some fucking time. No, manipulation comes dressed as concern, like a lifeguard, like a savior. I'm only saying this because I love you. Girl, I'm scared for you. I don't want to see you get hurt. And every one of those sentences can be sincere. They truly can. Some of these people have made a career out of it, and they believe their own bullshit. But like I said, that's what makes this difficult. You cannot identify manipulation through one sentence. You can't identify it through what happens after you disagree. A person who loves you may say, I don't agree, but I respect that this is your life. A manipulative person, they can't leave it there. They keep pushing and pushing. They bring it up again. They find a different angle. They recruit another friend or the internet or face space or whatever the fuck. They withdraw affection. They create tension. And then they punish you emotionally. And after that, they turn concern into this campaign because they didn't merely want to express an opinion. They want to control over the outcome. That's the difference. Advice provides information. Manipulation, that demands a result. Advice says, consider this. Manipulation says, do this or I will change the way I treat you. And some of the most controlling people never raise their voice. They use silence, disappointment, guilt, tears. They campaign publicly to fucking humiliate you and make you second guess yourself just to make, stop the bleeding. They make you feel that disagreeing with them will cost you everything. Then the moment you set a boundary, they call you controlling. They can pressure, punish, and guilt you until you comply. But when you finally say, I'm not participating in your little shit show anymore, suddenly you're an asshole, and abusive, and a jerk, and all the other sentence enhancers that they like to use. Or you're toxic, or the famous, you're a narcissist. That is convenient as hell, isn't it? So here's a simple test. How do you feel after talking to this person? Do you feel clearer? Do you feel stronger and empowered, more capable of making your own fucking decisions? Or do you feel confused, ashamed, desperate to talk to them again so they can tell you what you're supposed to believe? Healthy people return you to yourself. They realign you with yourself. They enhance you. Manipulative, toxic people, they exhaust you. A healthy friend says, dude, slow down, sleep on it. A manipulator says, you need to act right now. Girl, I don't want to piss you off, but he's blah, blah, blah. You see, they don't want you to slow down. Because if you slow down, you might think, if you think you might notice that their story doesn't add up, you might call them on their shit. If you notice that they start losing control, they might lose their shit. So everything becomes an emergency. Leave tonight. Block them now. Go no contact. Send the message. Make the accusation. Choose a fucking side and then prove that you believe me. You know, because we've been friends for 20 years when you're paying me. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is, I heard you and I'm going to decide for myself. And then watch their reaction. That sentence right there will expose everything you need to know. A good person respects it. A controlling person feels threatened by it. Because manipulators don't merely want to be heard at all. They want to be obeyed. And they often hide behind moral superiority. They know all the fancy words. They know how to twist and turn and do all kinds of shit to make you second guess yourself. They're always protecting someone. They're always speaking the truth. They're always keeping people safe. They're always holding people to task and holding them accountable. But somehow their accountability never points inward. It's shocking, isn't it? They've got every answer for everybody else. But man, when it comes to their own little fucking circus, man, oh man, it is nothing but freaking crickets. They just cannot figure out how to get their arms around their own shit, but they're absolute fucking PhDs at you fixing yours. They can identify everybody else's motives, defects, and red flags. Ask them about the destruction behind them, and suddenly you're attacking them. No, I'm examining your resume before I hire you to run my fucking life, you dumb shit. And that's fair. Before taking advice, inspect the fruit of that person's tree. Do they keep their word? Do they take responsibility? Do they waffle back and forth? Do they respect boundaries or do they push? Do they pay people back? Do they create stability? Or does chaos follow them like fucking exhaust smoke? Because somebody can speak beautifully about integrity while leaving wreckage behind them wherever they go. Words are fucking cheap. Patterns tell the truth. Some people are addicted to rescuing. They need you to have a problem because your problem gives them purpose. If you heal, they lose their role. If your relationship improves, they lose influence. If you trust yourself, they no longer are necessary. So keep finding danger, folks. They always do. Keep identifying enemies. Keep reopening wounds. The result is always the same. They remain broken. You remain broken. They remain important. You pine for their approval. That's not fucking friendship. That is dependency manufactured under the banner of love, and it's disgusting. Now let's discuss one of nature's greatest mysteries, the person whose life is completely on fire, but somehow has unlimited advice for everybody else. You know the type. Their life looks like a police scanner, a bankruptcy hearing, and a Facebook marketplace dispute had a baby. But somehow they're sitting across from you like a fucking life coach. And let me tell you what your problem is. They always start with that. Let me tell you about what your problem is. It cracks me up. My problem? Your car just got repossessed, you jackass. Your lights are getting shut off. Your boyfriend has 2 warrants and your living room furniture is all rented from Rent-A-Center. Maybe just sit this round out there, Britannica. People become unbelievably confident while advising others in areas where their lives are honestly active crime scenes. The serial liar teaches about loyalty. The person who owes money to everyone in town explains financial responsibility. The parent whose children communicate primarily through probation officers critiques your discipline. The person with 18 former best friends warns you that everybody else is toxic. And eventually we have to bring back one uncomfortable possibility. Maybe everyone else isn't the problem. Maybe it's you. Sometimes you're not trauma bonded. Sometimes you keep making terrible decisions because the person is attractive. Sometimes you aren't being gaslit. Sometimes you forgot what you said. Sometimes they aren't a narcissist. Sometimes they're just selfish. Sometimes they aren't being an avoidant. Sometimes they avoid talking to you because every conversation becomes a federal hostage negotiation. And sometimes, God forbid, you're the asshole. Nobody posts that online. Nobody shares that. And let me say something else that matters just as much. You better make sure, and I mean you really better make sure, you're with the right partner when you take this advice. Because a relationship cannot survive if your own partner is out there assassinating your character every time they're angry. I'm not talking about somebody calling a trusted friend and saying, we had a rough night and I need perspective. That's human. That you should do that. I'm talking about somebody who every time there's a conflict turns you into the monster of the fucking month for an audience. They tell everybody the worst versions of you. They leave out their part and they exaggerate your reaction. They repeat private conversations and they expose your weaknesses. And then they sit back and watch everybody have at you. They hand strangers pieces of your relationship that were never theirs to hold. Then they come home and expect you to trust them. No, that has to be rebuilt and re-earned. That's not partnership. That's betrayal with plausible deniability at best. Because here's the truth. The person you're with absolutely should be the safest place your name can exist when you're not in the room. You understand that? You have to protect the person you say you love, and that also means protecting their name when they're not there to defend it. Your partner should be the safest place for so many things, to where you don't have to worry about them destroying everything you built before them. They don't have to lie for you. They never should have to lie for you. They don't have to excuse your mistakes. They don't have to pretend you're perfect, but they should tell the truth about you, the whole truth, yours and theirs, if they're going to talk to other people about you. Not the version that gets them the most sympathy. That's bullshit, that's weak, and that's cowardly. Not the version that turns their friend into some soldier that fights for them. Not the version that leaves you walking into rooms full of people who already hate you over conversations you never knew that happened. That's a pretty fucking sick way to build a relationship. Because once your partner repeatedly trashes you behind your back, you are no longer just solving problems between two people. You are now fighting a reputation war, and that will exhaust you. And now every disagreement has witnesses. Every mistake has that jury. And every private failure becomes public fucking evidence. And even if the two of you even remotely can repair things, those other people don't forget what they heard. And they sit back and go, tisk, 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 look at them. What a shit show. Your partner may forgive you on Tuesday. Her friend still thinks you're a piece of shit until, I don't know, December. That damage stays, folks. So choose carefully. Don't just ask, do I love this person? Ask, can I trust this person with my name, my reputation, and my life? Can they be angry at me without trying to destroy how other people see me? Can they seek advice without turning me into a villain? Can they tell the fucking truth even when the full truth makes them look bad too? Can they protect the relationship while still holding me accountable? Because if the answer is no, then you don't have a fucking partner. You have a public relations liability sleeping right next to you. And I don't care how much chemistry you have. I don't care how good the sex is. I don't care how many times they say they fucking love you. If they need an audience every time they're upset, you are building a life with someone who will eventually put your name on trial and possibly you in a fucking early grave. Your partner does not campaign against you. Full fucking stop. A real partner does not recruit enemies to gain leverage. I've been on both sides of this. It doesn't fucking work, people. A real partner doesn't hand outsiders a weapon and then act surprised when they use it on you. They come to you, they tell you the truth, they hold you accountable, and when they talk about you to others, they remember that you're their partner and that they're speaking about somebody that they claim to love. That standard goes both ways. If you're bashing your partner every time you're angry, you're poisoning your own relationship. You can't walk that shit back. My God. I've had that multiple times in my life where I talk to my boys and I'm like, God, I can't fucking do another day of this shit. And then they see me do another day of it and they think I'm some waffling fucking pussy. Think about that. If you are bashing your partner every time you're angry, you're poisoning your own relationship. You're teaching your friends to hate the person you keep going home to and saying you love. Then you wonder why nobody supports the relationship. Well, you fucking trained them not to. So before blaming the toxic spectators, take a hard look at the person selling the tickets. Because it might be you. Because sometimes the biggest threat to your relationship is not the friend giving the bad advice. It's the partner who keeps giving them the distorted story to advise on. And if you cannot trust your partner to protect your name when you are absent, you cannot trust them with your future. That's not insecurity. That's a minimum requirement for loyalty. You know, the older I get, the less interested I am in being liked. It's not my thing anymore. I don't really care. But I'm more interested in, am I seeing things as they actually are? Am I seeing things correctly? Am I the problem? Where do we go from here? How do I put a bow on this life of mine properly so it wasn't all for nothing? Because life has taught me something. People will forgive almost anything, except you seeing them clearly. Liars don't hate honesty. They hate honest people. Manipulators don't hate confrontation. They hate people who can't be manipulated. And users don't hate boundaries. They hate the people who finally enforce them. Because the moment you stop participating in somebody else's game, they lose the ability to keep changing the rules. And that's what they panic about. Not because you became unreasonable, but because you became unavailable. See, I don't believe most people are evil. I really don't. I think most people are just broken in certain areas. They're scared, insecure, wounded, trying to survive, trying to matter, trying to avoid pain. But being broken doesn't give anybody the right to break you. I spent too many years believing that understanding somebody meant I had to tolerate everything they fucking did. It doesn't. You can't understand somebody's childhood. You weren't there. You can't understand the pain they went through and still walk away. You can understand the trauma and still lock your front door. You can understand why they lie and still refuse to believe them. Compassion without discernment is how good people become victims. I'm going to repeat that to you. Compassion without discernment is how good people become victims. And I just refuse to live that way anymore. Because here's the truth. Every single person listening to this podcast tonight is building their future. One decision at a time. One friend, one relationship, one business partner, one conversation, one compromise, one excuse, one ignored red flag, one forgiven betrayal, one broken promise, one boundary you enforce, or one boundary you abandon. That's how your life gets built. Not all at once, but brick by brick, choice by choice. And then one day people look at their life and say, how the fuck did I get here? You didn't get there overnight, folks. You got there one decision you refuse to question at a time. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Who's got their hands on your steering wheel? Not who do you blame, not who hurt you, not who betrayed you. Who's fucking driving? Whose voice is louder than your own? Who have you given authority that they've never earned? Who have you allowed to define your relationships, your future, your peace, your identity? Who? Because here's what I know. If somebody can convince you to stop trusting your own eyes, they never have to hide the truth from you again. They've already won. The greatest manipulation isn't making you believe a lie. It's making you doubt what you already fucking know. And once that happens, you become an easy person to steer. Well, not anymore, folks. Not for me, at least. I'm done apologizing for having standards. I'm done feeling guilty for protecting my peace, and I'm damn well done confusing loyalty with self-destruction. I'm done believing that every opinion deserves equal weight, because it doesn't. Some people have earned the right to speak into your life, but most haven't. And that's not arrogance. That's discernment. So here's my challenge. When this episode ends, don't think about who this reminds you of. Think about who you've been handing your steering wheel to. Then ask yourself one simple question. If I switched places with them, would I trust them to drive my life the way they've driven their own? If the answer is no, then why the fuck are they driving yours? You only get one life, folks. Stop letting people who keep crashing theirs tell you where to park yours. Guys, I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in again. Like, subscribe, and do all that shit. I love y'all. See ya.